Hi everyone, I'm Sultana Jones. I want to share with you a story that I've written. It's called The Diary of Leeann Little. The sweet smell of honeysuckle wafted through the windows of our old Ford truck. It was 1991. My husband John, or shall I say Dr. Little, was tired of working endless hours with Washington, D.C.'s wealthy, crying children and spoiled pregnant women. Washington, D.C. was a constant movement of cars. The exhaust from the metro buses coming and going was the only thing that filled the air. No sound of birds singing, no sky filled each night with stars. No sound of the stream running by the window, only the hard coldness of rush hour traffic. Mingled in with all of this was the constant coming and goings of DC's tourists, making getting to and from the office very slow at times. John was ready to move. He's been uneasy ever since we buried his Grandma Jo. She was the only living relative left. He had lost his own parents 3 years ago in a car accident. Grandma Jo, she was 92 when she died, and up until now she lived on her own. Now granted, she was starting to need a little help towards the end. I was always glad to come over and help in any way I could. It was during those times did she impart story after story. I was like a sponge and wrote down everything she spoke. We would sit and have tea and laugh and cry. Grandma Jo was a joy to be around. She was the sweetest gray-haired woman I've ever met. And boy, could she talk. She was always full of life. It was because of these stories Grandma told me about that stirred up our curiosity. Grandma Jo had a lot of papers and stuff, nothing of real value, so I grabbed what I could and boxed it, and well, I'll go through it when we settle down south. Nevertheless, that was the beginning of our search here. As we drove down the country roads of South Carolina, I was struck by the absence of all the hustle and bustle of the city. It's all I've ever known. And yet, down here, the blue sky seemed to kiss the horizon, and the green willow trees danced in the warm breeze. Everything seemed to take me back in time, back to when only the sound of wagon wheels and horses' hooves could be heard. I almost could hear the sound of slaves singing in the cotton fields. My mind can see the men, women, and children bent over and sweat running down their faces, picking cotton and singing to ease their outward and inward pain. Come, my Lord, it'll soon be over. Come, my Lord, won't you take me home? Come, my Lord, it'll soon be over. Come, my Lord, won't you take me home? I can see the field master standing there watching, and his whip on the saddle of the horse. There was plenty of time to think then. Joe's mind seemed to be as occupied as mine was. Silence was only broken by the stops at the gas station for much-needed coffee breaks. I never thought I'd be living down here in South Carolina, of all places. The move here was not really planned. It just sort of fell into our laps. John, some describe him as a gentle giant, wanted to find the site where his great-great-grandfather was a slave. I thought it would be something nice to know, something you write down in the family book to share with our kids one day. Well, the search seemed to take longer than packing up and moving did. I remember one afternoon the phone rang. It was John. He was so excited. I could hardly make out what he was talking about. Not only did he find his grandfather's land, it was up for sale. The next thing I knew, we had bought the property. I know, sounds crazy. We hadn't even seen the place yet before we packed up our bags and were driving down the road. Well, I'm going to go ahead and pause it for right now, and then I'll be back to read a little bit more. All right. And it's the Sultana Jones talking to each one of you as I read my book, Leeann Little.